Hi, Hans Linier here at Scale Computing with CEO Jeff Reedy. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing?
So, Jeff, I've been walking with your company for a few weeks now.
Yep.
And we'll do some work on marketing. And I was hoping to get a few minutes with you alone as being the CEO of the company.
Sure, happy to do it.
So, you're also a founder.
Yep.
Can you bring me back to the reasons and who was involved? Why has Scale Computing been founded in the first place?
Yeah, sure. So, the genesis of Scale started back in actually late 2007. And it was myself, my CTO, Jason Collier, and our VP of Engineering, Scott Loftmiller. And we'd been working on kind of some garage projects, and one of those projects was, basically building a kind of a grid-style supercomputer to see what we could put together for some, algorithmic stock market analysis we were doing, and through that process, you see how expensive large computer systems can get, how difficult they are to scale. And so we, started developing some homegrown technologies for our own use in that case. And, when we got to talking on the side about, okay, what kind of company are we going to start? Because, the three of us have been starting businesses together for about 20 years. And,
what would be, sorry to interrupt. What would be the best experience in that starting those businesses? Give me one that stands out. That was something we truly enjoyed and was successful.
Yeah, well, we had a company called Corvigo that was in the anti-spam space. So we actually built an appliance. This was in the 2000 to 2002 kind of time range when spam was kind of at the peak of its problem. Mm-hmm. A simple device, and I think that every team has kind of the one thing that they're really good at, right? And I think that the thing that we are really good at is seeing an opportunity to take what might be very complex technology and apply it in a way that creates a very simple and elegant solution. So, and I think this applies at scale too, but in that case, right, we had a, very deep artificial intelligence algorithm using neural networks and things to filter spam, with the intent that all the administrator had to do was put this box in front of the Exchange server, mm-hmm. Never had to get any updates, never had to do any training, and the spam just went away, right? And that was sort of, and it happened because of these complex algorithms. And so, when we came back to Scale and started talking about, there's clearly got to be a business opportunity to kind of take the IT infrastructure to the next level, right? What's the next generation? And as we were working on this stuff ourselves, and we said, all right, well, in sort of a whiteboard session, let's think about if we were going to build an infrastructure for a mid-size organization, and didn't have any preconceived notions about, it had to use this or it had to use that. Just ground up, what would it look like? And the hypothesis being, it probably wouldn't look anything like what actually IT ends up looking like. Because IT, as you know, as well as anybody, right? You start with something and then there's a problem, and so you bolt something on to fix it, and then you bolt something on to fix that problem. And pretty soon, if you actually step back near it, you're like, well, how in the heck did we end up with all of this, right? And it's very, very complicated. And so we thought, all right, well, again, with our forte being, develop technologies that can really simplify and create elegant solutions, could we do that really for the whole infrastructure, right? As opposed to just a point solution like spam. And that's where the idea of Scale kind of originally came from. And, as we looked at it as, the infrastructure had two main components. There's kind of the compute side and the server side and the storage side. And the first part of that we set out to tackle was the storage component. But that was really from the beginning meant to lay the foundation for where the company is today, which is full infrastructure. And that's why, somewhat awkwardly for the first kind of 2 years of us selling product, people perceived us as a storage company that was awkwardly named Scale Computing, right? Which doesn't sound like a storage company, but the vision of the company from the beginning is what we would now call converged or hyper-converged infrastructure, although there was no name for it at the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, great. So it's actually been 20 years of the same team, like CTO, CEO, and engineering.
Yeah.
So I don't even have to ask you how did you become the CEO of this company, because that was actually written in the start, right? You were CEO at the previous company as well.
I was deemed the worst engineer is how that got started. So somebody had to do the marketing and the sales side right from the very beginning, and it just sort of went from there. So
you have two headquarters. One. Actually, the headquarters is here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Engineering is in Silicon Valley.
Yep.
How important is that headquarters having in Indianapolis? Because there's maybe 2 or 3 bigger IT companies. Indianapolis is not a hub for IT.
That's right.
Today.
Yeah.
Why that choice?
Yeah, well, I think that Indianapolis is one of the cities that has a growing IT culture that's a little bit under the radar, right? So then there's a number of locations like that. But the cost of living here is quite a bit less. Therefore, the cost of doing business is less. It's a very business friendly state, as well. And so, we're able to do things like our tech support group, for example, is entirely based here in Indianapolis. And so a lot of times where an organization might, outsource offshore, and end up with a tech support experience that might not be as good for their customers, we're able to do that, right here and really, end up with an environment where we, are hiring, great, computer science, engineers that'll, do that tech support, very low turnover. So we get a lot of consistency when a customer calls in and they get their group of support reps, right? They may be talking to the same people, over a period of years, right? That become very familiar with the environment. So we like to leverage what we can do here in Indianapolis, which there's a lot of talent, obviously, around sales, marketing, finance, so forth. And then, the strength of Silicon Valley being, software and development, and that's what we do there.
Okay, great. Having engineering in Silicon Valley, I guess that's mostly due to recruiting, I guess.
Yeah, well, a lot of it, again, because of the length of time I've worked with some of the founding team, right? Obviously, over a course of a number of companies, you also end up with a database of engineers and other people that you've worked with, and so a lot of those are in Silicon Valley. So it just became natural to put that there. Ironically, a lot of times you see companies in Silicon Valley that will have a lot of their headquarters there, and then have the engineering work done somewhere else, right? Which is as a way for them to try and save money. Yeah, the way that I perceive it is, the best engineers are going to be the ones that they're there in Silicon Valley, and we take an approach of, rather than, from a total headcount number, you often find that here at scale or across my companies, we might have fewer engineers as a percentage of bodies in the organization. However, I think we have, very, very high talent in the engineering side, and that's why we have that in Silicon Valley. So.
Looking at company growth and future growth, how is the financial situation now? As in, who are your venture partners? In what type of round are you? How are we there today and coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, so we've today raised a bit over $40 million in capital. Very well financed, backed by some of the largest VCs, both in Silicon Valley, companies like Benchmark Capital, and a whole host of great investors behind us now. There's been a tremendous amount of interest in the business and helping us fuel growth. So, I suspect that in the near term we'll be announcing some additional financing as well. But we're on very good financial footing, and again, because of the I think maybe semi-unique cost structure that we've been able to build into the business. We're on a path to go be cash flow positive, in the relatively near future, which is something that you don't typically expect out of an IT infrastructure company. Often they're burning capital well beyond an IPO, and we won't have to be in that situation.
That's a great situation to be in. and a smart one to be in that position. If you look at how the company is structured from a CEO perspective, how the company is today, what would you see being your biggest challenge? Where do you want to bring the company, the board, and its people in the next year? What is your biggest challenge in the next year for the company?
Well, I think that it's it's sustaining the high rate of growth that we've seen so far with the HC3 product. We've seen 40% quarter-on-quarter growth, which is very high, and obviously you want to keep that. As the numbers get bigger, that's more difficult to maintain. But we are out there competing, literally head to head with obviously very well-established brands, right? Mm-hmm. When somebody looks at an infrastructure and they say, well, we're going to start with VMware and we're going to pick, HP or Dell servers and somebody's storage, right? And we're saying, well, we have an alternative to all that, right? And so, our customers have to become comfortable, right, with, okay, well, I'm not going to buy VMware, right? And scale is going to be everything. Now, there are advantages to that, right? When something breaks in that customer environment, right, they're not going to call VMware and VMware is going to say, oh, the problem's with your storage. And then you call NetApp and NetApp says, oh, no, it's something with your HP server, and you call HP, right? With us, it's that sort of, we call it one throat to choke or one back to pat. It is challenging as the smaller, lesser known company to compete with those brands. But as, we're, approaching 1,000 deployments of HC3, and we've got a lot of, great reference customers and folks that, it's very likely that we can find somebody, as a reference who is going to be, nearly identical to any new customer that comes in at this point. But, getting that word out there, that's the biggest challenge we have.
Yeah, I actually, this is the project I did with you in the last 2 weeks. I talked to a lot of your customers, and they do validate that point that it's for them, it's more of a set and forget type of infrastructure, and they can focus more on their applications. Now that you do mention a few of the bigger players in the market, let's take that the market validation that we have now for server-based storage. You actually started it as a storage company, adding virtualization later on in the appliance model. We see a lot of players now doing the other way around, in the hypervisor, bringing in the storage layer in the server, whether or not it's a VSA model or kernel-based like VMware vCenter. How important is that market validation for you as a company now?
Well, no, I mean, it's very helpful, really, right? I mean, for years, as we were kind of laying that foundation to be where we are now, our, quote unquote storage appliances, again, not only did the name of the company not look like a storage company, but the makeup of those appliances didn't necessarily appear like what you would expect. You had a node that had 4 drives in it and a CPU. And, that's not going to get you the densest storage platform. But, as we then transitioned to bringing in the server and the hypervisor technology into those same appliances with a firmware update, all of a sudden it starts to make a lot more sense, right? And so, our doing that, having other folks, like VMware, doing that, it's been very helpful, because now it just changes the mindset of the customer. We don't have to do all the evangelizing as to why it makes sense, to eliminate that traditional kind of storage platform, right? And instead to do everything, within the hypervisor itself.
There is, I think there's a huge market coming up to that, the appliance-based architecture. Let's call it that way, for servers and for compute and storage. You tend to start at a very low level of type of customers in the one-person IT shop with 3 or 4 hosts. Today, with an infrastructure that goes up to 8 hosts, maybe 16 in the next release, how important is that market segment for you? Where do you differentiate from others, and how important is that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really kind of core to our DNA, right? I mean, when I talked about, approaching, with that whiteboard and building an infrastructure from scratch, the idea was, building that for specifically that mid-size kind of IT department, right? Where they have the 1, the 2, the 3 guys who are doing everything, right? Everything from procuring servers to running apps to doing, laptop maintenance. And, those are the stereotypical overworked IT guy who's got too much going on. And the whole premise being, if we can eliminate the 99% of the time you spend worrying about the infrastructure, that allows them to focus on applications, on the business that they're actually running, and those sorts of things. And, and then that, of course, because that's where we started, that manifests itself in the way that the product actually works. Now, what's interesting is we found that, over the last year, we have brought in, quite a number of what you would consider, larger enterprise type accounts. But, what we're finding is they often have use cases that will very much match, that kind of core business to us. So it's kind of exciting to see, a customer of ours like NATO, right, who you wouldn't think of as small IT shop, but running literally identical software, and an HC3 platform that a small local bank might run. And we don't do any customization for those larger accounts. It's because it's, what they needed was that kind of simple solution for whatever particular deployment they might have. But there's no doubt that when you look at the user interface, when you talk to our customers, the product was built specifically for that mid-market guy.
Okay. Jeff, thank you for your time. And if you have watched this video, there will be all those customers that I talked to. We had a lot of video cases of that, and I'll write some blog posts for you on that as well. And indeed, I've talked to those customers. Simplicity of use has been one of the biggest terms that came back to me on a daily basis here, being in Indianapolis last week, and that's going to show probably in those use cases. So, Jeff, thank you for your time.
Great, thank you very much.